Hello one and all, once again welcome back to the Advanced Project Management Certification. Welcome back for another chapter. As always, I am your host, Ibby Taylor. Now in this chapter we're going to be looking at stakeholder management. Now stakeholders and the management and effective communication is key and crucial to the success of your project. So this is an important one. They are all important, but this one very much so. Stakeholders, including individuals, groups or organisations, are directly or indirectly impacted by a project and have the ability to influence its outcome. Whether it's a top-tier executive influencing strategic decisions or a community affected by infrastructure development, managing stakeholder relationships is a pivotal skill project managers must master. Identifying stakeholders is the first essential step in stakeholder management. This involves determining who the stakeholders are and what role they play in your project. Stakeholders can be customers, suppliers, regulatory bodies, team members, or even community representatives. Anyone that has a vested interest in your project is a stakeholder. So for example, for a software development project, identify who uses the software, the end users, who funds it, the sponsors, who sets the legal compliance, the regulators, and who executes the work, the project team. Now, techniques to identify stakeholders. Create a stakeholder wheel to visualize all potential stakeholders. You'll see an example of one on the right of your screen there. Use project charters or organizational charts as primary sources for identification. So go back through your documents, have a look at who you identified as being a stakeholder for the project. Engaging brainstorming sessions with the project team to ensure that no key stakeholder is overlooked. Because everyone is human. People forget things. Not everyone works with the same people. You might have no contact or no idea that someone exists, but you bring your development team and all of a sudden they'll say, hey, you've forgotten about so-and-so. Get them on the wheel. So how to classify and prioritize your stakeholders. Now, not all stakeholders have the same level of influence or interest. So classifying and prioritizing them helps project managers to allocate their focus and effort effectively. So with some stakeholders, they might be, outliers, the end users. How informed do you need to keep an end user during the project phase? Not really that much. It's more about the customers, the sponsors. Once the project is delivered, that's when your communication to the end user or your customer's communication to the end user can begin. So you've got a power and interest matrix. So classify stakeholders into 4 quadrants based on the influence and level of involvement. Low power, low interest groups require minimal updates. But high power, high interest groups demand significant engagement. You can then tailor your approach to each subgroup. So a high power, high interest stakeholder for a construction project might be the city planners. But low power, low interest stakeholders could be passers-by. They're still a stakeholder in your project because they still have a vested interest. They're still a part of the project in some way, shape or form. But do they require constant engagement and communication? No, not really. But the city planners, the people behind the purchases, do they require? Yes, they do. So once stakeholders are classified, engagement strategies can then be tailored to the needs and expectations. So high engagement for key stakeholders, so senior executives, funding sponsors, utilization of executive reports, regular one-on-one meetings, detailed performance updates, all things that can be used to make sure that your key stakeholders are well informed. Low engagement for minor stakeholders, subcontractors, peripheral team members, occasional email updates, quarterly reports, how things are going. Just a very bird's eye view from the outside looking in, because that's pretty much all they need. Now, aligning stakeholder goals with project objectives is critical. For example, a renewable energy project must ensure its environmental friendly value is communicated effectively to the community while fulfilling governmental emissions standards. So they may well be low engagement, low impact, low power stakeholders. However, there is still critical communication which needs to happen effectively to them in order to ensure the success of your project. Now, conflicts is something that's going to happen. It does happen. So conflict management and resolution is a key skill for any project manager. It's a fundamental part of stakeholder engagement, as diverse priorities can create tension. Not everyone cares about the same things, and we've touched about this before. You know, the chief executive might not care about the same thing that the chief financial officer cares about. He's going to be caring about finances. The CEO is going to be caring about overall success. So conflict resolution techniques are critical. Use active listening and ensure every stakeholder feels heard. Apply negotiation techniques for solutions that align with broader project goals. Conduct regular stakeholder meetings. Address concerns before they escalate. Stay on top of your communication and your management. So for example, during a commercial building construction project, a conflict might arise between local residents and developers regarding noise levels. Can happen. We know no one likes building works at 2 a.m. A project manager could mediate this by proposing quiet construction hours and adding insulation. Look for practical ways around. Look at the solution, look at the conflict, find ways around it. Tools for stakeholder management. So you can use tools, and this will empower you as a project manager to track and improve your stakeholder relationships. So a stakeholder register. Keep detailed information about each stakeholder, including their expectations and their responsibilities. When it comes to stakeholder register, I'm someone that's very personal. I like to have very personal relationships with a lot of my stakeholders. I'm just going to move because I'm a bit uncomfortable. I like to have very personal relationships. I like to know more about my stakeholders. I like to conversate and talk to them. So on that register, I'll also add just things that come up in conversation, their likes, their dislikes, their hobbies, how many kids they've got, what they do outside of work. And I will bring this in so that when I'm talking to my stakeholders, I know them on a personal level. I can start by asking, how golf was over the weekend, how was the fishing trip, how were the kids? And then let's talk business. Because stakeholder management is not just about following a set process and doing everything by the book. Effective stakeholder management is about knowing your stakeholders and knowing how to communicate with them. Some stakeholders don't like the personal stuff, they don't care for it. In which case that's on you to identify. We've spoken briefly before about emotional intelligence and being in tune with that, and that's something that you build over time. And you'll start to understand people and how they work, how they think, and how they operate. And that's when you can tailor your approach to stakeholder management. Now you can also keep an engagement matrix, map engagement levels against project stages to ensure stakeholders are involved at the right time. And you can use collaboration platforms like Teams, Slack, Zoom's another one. Facilitate communication and document accessibility. You can then evaluate the satisfaction of your stakeholders. Again, it's all about open communication, open platforms, open forums, questions and answers, town hall sessions. Post-project reviews are vital for understanding what worked and what didn't in stakeholder management. It's the same for every other element of your project. It's all about lessons learned. What we did well, what we didn't do so well, how do we change and improve for the better? Feedback surveys. Collect qualitative and quantitative feedback from key stakeholders post-project. And then obviously lessons learned reports, document insights, refine engagement strategies for future projects. It's always about constantly learning and building. Let's have a look at some applications. Now I'll go through the first one. There are 10 of them. And you're then going to go through them yourself and think clearly about stakeholder management and how it impacts these examples. So number 1, software development initiative. Application to identify software users, sponsors and regulators, creating detailed engagement plans. So tools, RACI charts for role clarity, and then Jira for transparent progress tracking. An additional insight, ensure compliance through technical steering committees involving all primary stakeholders, so open and honest communication, and using something like Jira to track clear progress. That information can then filter down to your stakeholders. Now go through the rest of these examples and have a look and just think about stakeholder management in particular and its impact on these examples. Once you've done, you've then got your summary tables. Give these a quick once over and just double check your own knowledge and understanding of stakeholder management, conflict resolution, and everything else that is involved. You then move on to practice questions. Give these a go and check your own understanding. of what we've learned here. If you need to go back, if you struggle, by all means, watch this again. Go back and read through the course content and then see how you get on again. If you still struggle for any reason or anything is unclear, as I always say, reach out to us. We are here to support you doing this course and to guide you through. But apart from that, thank you very much for your time and concentration. I'm your host, Ibby Taylor, and as always, I'll see you in the next chapter.